know, um, Jesus tapped into the eternal life source, and he stayed in the flow, this continuum of existence and cosmic history. So we're not surprised that Jesus saw his own life as a libation. And again, I'll talk about libations as we go along. But when he said the words, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, which is poured out for you," there is some extended significance that often goes unexplored. So we'll take at least a cursory look at it today. Libations, I don't know where they started. I don't think anybody does. They're like the pyramids, It was a good idea, but we don't know who started it. We know about the ones in Egypt. I've seen some in Sudan. There's one in the famous underwater city in Japan, of course, in Central America and South America. I mean, there's even one in the U.S. And so we don't know how it started, but there's something deep and primal in our humanity, it seems. And libations is like that. Some of the ways that libations are used, they are offerings to God or the gods, depending on the culture. An important part of libations is that they are done to honor the sacredness of a person, of a moment, of an experience. And they are used to recognize ancestors, to say to our ancestors that we recognize that you shared this world that we now share. In some cultures, it's actually the worship of ancestors, even though that could be somewhat semantic. But it's to establish sacredness, and we have several examples, but I'm only going to cite a couple of them. In Genesis 35, verse 14, it says, Jacob set up a stone pillar at the place where God had talked with him, and he poured out a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it. The drink offering here would have included oil, and presumably water was the other one. In many cultures, alcohol is used, wine or liquor. There are places where rice is used. In India, ghee. Different things are used, but most commonly it seems to be water in indigenous, in native cultures, in ancient cultures. And also, I would like to cite 2 Samuel 23, verse 15. David longed for water and said, "Oh, that someone would get me a drink of water from the well near the great gate of Bethlehem." And let me just insert here that David was on the run. He was a fugitive running for his life with some of his friends, his colleagues, and he was thirsty for the kind of water that he knew. Verse 16 says, "So the three mighty warriors broke through the Philistine lines, drew water from the well near the gate of Bethlehem, and carried it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out before the Lord. 'Far be it from me, Lord, to do this,' he said. 'Is it not the blood of men who went at the risk of their lives?' And David would not drink it." So in this moment, he is calling up the sacredness of these men's lives. For Jacob, he's calling out the sacredness of the voice of God that he encountered in a particular location. So to expand this to include ancestors, and of course, we don't know the state of ancestors. We don't know, what they are physically or vibrationally after they're gone on. But I want you to consider these words of Jesus. "But now, as to whether there will be a resurrection of the dead, haven't you ever read about this in the scriptures? Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had died, God said, 'I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob.' So he is the God of the living, not the dead. When the crowds heard him, they were astounded at his teaching. I'm going to go back and look at this again. You know, sometimes a term for God is the word source. So I want to read it that way. But now, as to whether there will be a resurrection of the dead, haven't you ever read about this in the scriptures? Long after Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob had died, the source said, I am the source of Abraham, the source of Isaac, the source of Jacob. So he is the source of the living, not the dead. This establishes the parameters of the domain of reality, of God's rule. When the crowds heard him, they were astonished at his teaching. So this is about it. This is about connecting with the unseen realm. This is about us being conscious of what we cannot usually detect with our senses. It's about being more broadly aware, which I think that I know I'm talking to people who do live this way, who think this way. But I just want to affirm this reality and to affirm your connection with the things you cannot see, taste, touch, or smell. Something